Well, hey everybody, welcome to week three. We're already a quarter of the way through the session. It's 8 weeks, but still a quarter of the way there. It flies through. First of all, I want to say thank you for your posts, particularly at the end of week one. The discussions that you brought were fantastic. It's really great to read what you have to bring. I really like the diversity of interests that the six of you have, and I think that's really going to be fantastic as we go through the program, and it really provides an opportunity for you to really to learn from one another. And so I think it's going to make a good experience for everybody. I really appreciate the thought that you put into it, and also the improvement in the use of APA for your references between the Wednesday and the Saturday posts. That did not go unnoticed. So congratulations, and thank you for doing that. As I mentioned earlier, or in one of my posts, that will certainly help you with this program, and just in general in this world. So for this week, then I'm looking forward to your health system discussion posts. It's quite an important and meaty topic, and so what you guys have to say about it, I'm looking forward to reading. So for this week, I'm pretty excited, relatively speaking, because we're really starting to get into some topics that are really important in terms of methods in the field of public health, and you'll see them more in future classes in this program. But you're going to be introduced to epidemiologic terms that you will become very familiar with, not only in knowing their definition, but really how you apply them to your work. There are many methods and terms that we use to quantify disease and their outcomes. There's things like prevalence, incidence, years of potential life lost, QALYs, which is quality adjusted life years, or DALYs, disability adjusted life years. I'm pretty sure you're not getting into either of those in this course, but going forward, those are things you want to be familiar with. And there's just a lot of measures that we use, a lot of ways to quantify things in epidemiology. But then there's also ways to look at these measures beyond just the population. You can kind of slice and dice things up, look at differences by race and ethnicity, gender, economic status, things like that. So epidemiology, the definition of it is it's really the study of the distribution and the determinants of disease. And so as we get a handle on the distribution and how it varies from group to group, that gives us some insight into some of the determinants of the disease. And particularly the social variables. And I do want to say this at the outfront about epidemiology. We talk about disease, but epidemiology, it's not just limited to disease like cancer or diabetes. Quite a bit of my work in my doctoral program is on physical activity epidemiology. Now, obviously, physical activity is not a disease. Physical activity is a protective factor against disease. So epidemiology is not just the outcomes. You can also look at physical activity, epidemiology in terms of kind of those upstream variables that lead to or prevent against disease. So it's a very wide-ranging field, and it's really an interesting one, really fascinating. So I hope you enjoy your introduction into the field of epidemiology. Then we'll get into evaluation. So my title at UW-Milwaukee is I'm a researcher / evaluator. So my work is kind of split 50-50. So I've done a lot of empirical research with study designs and randomized control trials and things like that. But the other half of my work is really on program evaluation. Through a number of fields. And there's the difference between research and evaluation. Research is really empirically based. It's hypothesis driven, whereas evaluation, we're looking at trying to answer key questions and help decision makers in terms of programs and what can be done. So with the evaluation of health initiatives, we're really interested in looking at what is happening, trying to test effectiveness, see what could be done better to save more lives, reduce years of potential life lost, things like that. Now, the design of evaluations can vary quite a bit, just like research. Some are pretty basic. We look at a program that's in place and then see what happened. We look at process evaluation, which is basically the steps of the evaluation or the program rather. Are things going off as they should, but also the outcomes. But those can be very limited in terms of getting real hard evidence of what worked. So kind of an extreme example of that would be, say you took a local community and they decided that they were going to do a anti-smoking campaign, initiative, program, whatever the case may be, and you followed them for 25 years, something crazy like that. So you say you followed, from 1990 to 2015. What you would find, almost certainly, is that the rates of smoking, they went down, possibly by quite a bit. The problem is, for the purposes of the evaluation, cigarette smoking's gone down everywhere. That's what we call a secular trend. Something happened pretty universally, or at least certainly in the United States, just happened all over. So what you would need to do is kind of other methods and other designs that some evaluations do to control for those secular factors or those outside factors. So if you were to evaluate a health program, one evaluation design looks at taking regions that are going to be receiving the program or are receiving the program, and then looking at perhaps other regions that are very similar in characteristics who are not receiving the program, and comparing change in whatever you're interested in from time A, to time B to time C, and looking at if there are differences. Other designs are things like a delayed implementation model. I've done this a couple times with schools where we have something in place that we want to evaluate its efficacy, but you don't want to have schools submit data and then ultimately not get anything. So perhaps a school year starts, this school year, or a bundle of school starts this school year, and then 2 years down the road, the rest of the schools do the same thing. So we get that time window to look at, is there an effect, but also differentiate and allow everybody to take part in it. So as you see, evaluation can get pretty intricate. It can be pretty complex, and the line between research and evaluation isn't ultimately that clear in terms of the statistical and sometimes the methodological tools that we have at our disposal. But what evaluation does is it really varies relative to research on contextual factors, such as the environment being controlled or not, strict randomization, things of that nature. But also in the fact that in research we really kind of lay everything out on the table going forward. One of my professors in epidemiology back in grad school, kind of dismissed the idea of, after you run an analysis, going back and running it again with maybe lessons that you've learned. His perspective was, you lay it all out there and then you go, and then what you get. Evaluation's different in that you kind of have to roll with the punches, because as you kind of dive into more social characteristics of the people you're working with and the environment, you realize there are things that you thought maybe have impacted the outcome that did or did not. And the good thing about program evaluation is you do kind of have that flexibility of being able to be that, that pliable in terms of what you bring into your work. So research and evaluation, they're different, but they're the same. So your reading will really dive deeper into that, focusing more on the evaluation side of things. So I hope you enjoy your readings and really diving into it. Assignment-wise, for this coming week, we're back on the discussion board section. So you will have your discussion posts due on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And your quiz number 3 will be due Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So with that, let me bid you adieu, saying take care, keep up the great work, and of course, be well.